The Central, the biggest argument is the Milwaukee Bucks. Their over is 53.5. They're plus 380 to win the title. They're plus 175 for the conference, plus 165 for the 1 seed, minus 360 for the division. They added Dame Lillard. We don't need to rehash that. We did a lot of podcast content on all of our podcasts about it. I don't think this team is deep enough to be a mid-50s win team. And I say that because as I'm looking at their depth chart and I see guys like Connaughton, Malik Beasley, one of the Antetokounmpo brothers, the kid, who's the rookie they drafted, the number 38, the defensive whiz, Andre Jackson.
Who, the UConn kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Middleton's there, obviously, but I have no idea what he's thinking from a health standpoint. Jay Crowder. I just think their perimeter defense is going to be bad, and I think it's going to cost them if you're just thinking of them in the context of, can this team win like 56 games? So, House, for me, it's an under. I think the under is a little too high. I know they have Giannis on their team.
Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't really reflect on how I think about their ultimate fortunes. They're not deep, and the right thing for them to do. They're clearly good enough to go win 50 games. Are they? Yeah. Do they care enough to go win 55? Does it make sense? Are they going to have health, sufficient to go win 55?
Right.
I would.
Brooke Lopez is 35 years old. Middleton hasn't really been healthy in a couple years now.
It's not disrespectful to me to say that they're going to win 53 games, and that's under.
I think it's really hard for a team that's going to be pretty strange defensively, where they have like real strengths in some spots. They have one of the two best players in the world. And then they have this is a team that signed Campaign and was super excited about it. Like, we got Campaign. Cool. I just don't see mid-50s for them. What do you have, Russillo?
I'm going to go over just because, look, you had 4 teams over 50 wins last year in the East.
Yep.
They clearly have the best chance to be the 1 or 2 seed besides Boston. And, over the course of
it's a conference bet?
Yeah.
Well, I like this.
There's all this uncertainty in the West, but even with the bottom of the East, when I was looking at the over-unders, I'm like, Orlando's a good example. I know we're going to get to it, but you're going I really want to give them almost 40 wins.
Right.
I'm like, can I find 40 wins for this team? Are they ready? Are they there yet?
Sorry, Srudy.
I started kind of looking at Detroit in there and then Chicago. This became a overplay for me because a bunch of ones where if it was flip a coin, it was an under.
Totally reasonable. Sucking up wins from the Chicagos and the Torontos and the
Philly number's high. I can't believe it came out at 49.5 and now it's 47.5.
It still seems high.
Yeah. Right.
Well, new coach, Adrian Griffin. They got rid of Coach Bud.
One of my favorite players of all time.
I know.
For the record.
The defense, we'll see. I think it's going to be pretty rough, especially the Dame piece of it when people haven't watched him have to play real defense.
I like that he said his defense is actually a little overlooked. I mean, just one time.
Overlooked if you're trying to get 60?
One time I'd like a guy to go,
I can do better. Yeah, I can do better.
I'm not good over there.
I need help.
I looked, and then I had to put on my glasses. What's overlooked mean?
Overlooked,
I may have
how
the
bad it
wording
was last year?
Wrong, but it was just
looked.
Basically I don't get enough credit for some of the stuff I do. And we're like, well, you don't.
Yeah.
I've never heard you.
Do.
Yeah, right. You're an incredible offensive player. House, will this be Giannis's greatest year? 29 years old. Last 5 years, 29, 12, and 6, 56% field goal. But now is playing with somebody who, at least offensively, is going to bring out a little extra for him. Defensively, he's not going to have Drew. He's probably going to take a bigger defensive burden. But offensively...
Well, he'll be allowed to actually take a bigger defensive burden. I mean, remember that stuff with Bud, too? It's why wouldn't you just throw this fucking freak at Jimmy Butler in a couple possessions just to see what happens? Be no. Yeah, we can't disrupt what we do.
It's only game 90. We got to save him. Save him for the last.
And look, I'm not even saying it guaranteed it was going to work. Chances are it'd be pretty shitty having the ball, putting it on the floor, and being I got to go around this guy. So I don't know.
Give me your highest Giannis season that's not crazy, stat wise. So last 5 years, he averaged 29, 12, and 6. Last year, he was 31 and 12. Is it crazy to think he's a 33, 13, and 7 this year? Shooting 57%.
None of that matters to me. I don't think he cares. I don't think he needs to take 22 shots.
I'm just trying to figure out how impactful he's going to be compared to the last 5 years we watched. Like, what is the Dame, bringing in the Dame agent to this, what does this do for him statistically?
I think Dame's going to have so many secondary break threes that are wide open, because I think that's one of the best parts of Giannis's game is getting going. And if he can't break through the wall, not trying to be political, and kicks it out to Dame, like, you know, think of the other guys that have been taking those shots or missing some of them. I also think the biggest thing is, like, you kind of can see in your head Middleton getting into his offense. You can kind of see what Drew was or wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I'm excited about Drew on the Celtics, like, if he was the guy taking the second most shots in a playoff game, then that may not be what you want by design. The fact that it's Lillard now, who you can just envision him getting into all of this stuff. I just think it raises their profile so much offensively. So I don't think it's, hey, now Giannis goes for 35. He could have his best season and still be lower in some of the traditional numbers.
So what if he goes 29, but the assists go up by 2 assists and he gets 4 blocks a game or 5 blocks a game, like those other areas where
5 blocks a game would be like historically great. Let's give him 3.
Okay, 3.
I was like 5's a lot.
So what if it's like 27 and 15?
Yeah.
With like 3 blocks a game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to work out the cognitive dissonance between this team winning 53 games, but him having, because I really love him for the MVP odds this season.
I've almost voted him MVP each of the last 2 years.
Like, I think he's the best kind of high favorite odd, 6-1, and I like Booker for kind of the long shot.
As great as Jokic is, I feel like a bit of the belt conversation is a little dismissive to Giannis.
Jokic doesn't. Well, now that's fair, but Jokic wants no part of any of these conversations.
Okay, but that's like for what we do, and I know it can be like the recency bias of all this stuff, obviously, right? But we're 2 rings removed from Giannis. I still think like this idea that there's no way like Giannis could recapture the belt. I think that's a mistake.
Who's saying that?
Yeah.
I mean, Jokic has the belt right now. It's pretty definitive, but I think Giannis could grab it back this year.
So belt availability is how many guys? 2?
I just think it's those 2, honestly.
Right.
I don't think Tatum is ready yet to be in that combo, and I don't really see anybody else.
Tatum has to like push himself into it. We saw it for a bit the beginning of last season.
And I think Embiid giving up on that one.
Not him, but just like
not under these circumstances.
The playoff performance now it's not just a cold streak. This is kind of who you are. This is what the stats are and what the performance is year after year after year in the playoffs. This is kind of who you are.
I mean, look, I've brought it up a couple times, but like I feel like Embiid in a weird way because people like him so much that he hasn't caught nearly as much shit as other guys.
Well, there's always been somebody else to blame too. Yeah. It's like Ben Simmons, James Harden.
Thibault.
The coaches of the 2 Eastern Conference favorites are Joe Mazzulla and Adrian Griffin. Just wanted to mention that. It's a wild card for this year. Cleveland Cavaliers, 50.5. And it seems jarring. It's like, man, that's high. Well, they won 51 last year. Well, the conference probably got a little worse. I don't even have a pick yet. I wrote under right now, but I might change my mind because I haven't decided. I haven't decided yet. I want to talk it out with you guys. Strus, they added.
Niang,
the winningest player of the 2020s. Most wins. They added Mobley's brother. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign.
He's actually all right. I liked him in college.
There's some Amani Bates.
I can't believe how bad he was at the combine, and then everybody loved him after.
Yeah, there's some Amani Bates building. I guess my first question is, hey, Evan Mobley. It's time. Let's see something. What do you got?
So you're off the Duncan profile?
I have a lot of stock. Let's go.
Your grandkids are coming over being like, Bill, we need to diversify this.
It's like more AI, less Evan Mobley, more AI.
Like, I know.
Artificial intelligence is where's that?
I know that Netscape was huge there for a little while, buddy.
Everyone else was buying crypto. I was buying Evan Mobley. Can you make a 25-footer?
He needs to develop something else that is a go-to offensively, and it still at times feels a little.
Are you just a center, and that's where you should be playing?
Yeah, did you get exposed in a 2-center thing where you were trying to zag against everybody else? Look, those 4 guys, their on-off stuff with Garland, with Mobley, with Allen, and Mitchell was like one of the best groupings you'd have. They were second point differential in the East, and yet you're right. When I saw the 50.5, despite winning 51 games last year, I just was like, I don't think I can.
They started out 8-1 last year, House, 43-30 the rest of the way. So the case would be Garland and Mobley are young. I think we both really like those guys as assets.
And remember, those guys missed time though too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could those guys make a little leap? What do you have, House?
They had the expected wins based on their point differential was 55, which just feels insane. For a portion of the season, they led, in point differential, and everybody. The smart folks all point to that as a real good indicator.
And there's a defensive backbone with them that,
yes.
I just don't want to overreact because Mitchell had a bad Knicks series and Mobley was disappointing.
That's the point, right?
The Mitchell thing I think is easier to get over, but but this really has more to do with the playoffs than the regular season. Yes. Maybe this point, but after that Knicks series, I started thinking wait, is the problem here that you have 2 people that don't meet you don't need to
about
defend
that a bunch. The Mitchell Garland combo, do those 2 guys ultimately make sense if you're trying to win multiple playoff rounds? What else were you going to say, House?
Just that they're built for a regular season success, and I think that they will come in with an idea, motivated to get that bad Knicks taste out of their mouth and get on with it. This is another team that I'll be looking at for that in-season tournament kind of thing, those odds, because I just think they're kind of built for that defense. They showed us in the regular season. That's like a regular season kind of defense, so that's fine.
And they have a couple moves that they can make. I really like the Strus signing, not what they paid for it, but just for what he's going to bring to them because he's been in a lot of big games. He's a guy who can take over a quarter and just make 4 threes out of nowhere. The big question for me is Mitchell not staying there long-term is probably the worst kept secret in the league. And if it's not the worst kept, it's in the top 3. So at what point does that put pressure on this season? And at what point do the Cavs kind of admit that that's how this is probably playing out? And does that change if they start out slow this year? The first, how this goes, especially with the information guys. Monday morning, you wake up, one of the information guys has a story to try to set the tone for the week that then they can talk on all the TV shows about it. It's this is going to be Donovan Mitchell's last year in Cleveland. And then all of a sudden it's whoa, okay. Everyone does the podcast. We have all the TV shows about it. And it's the 48-hour cycle. And I just feel like that's going to happen at some point with this team.
And the biggest mistake you could be making is thinking you're like OKC with Durant. Because for Durant, even if you were holding out hope that you could keep him, which I'd still say you probably felt more positive about it back then than you would for Mitchell this year.
Yeah.
You're right. You're like, okay, if you're running the Cavs, can we let the asset walk for nothing, knowing what we gave up for it?
Right.
Or if we're doing that, are we preventing ourselves from a really deep Eastern Conference run? And it sits here today, maybe it all comes together. Maybe Mobley has more offense. Maybe they figure out how to stagger the 2 centers. Because maybe the 2-center thing is why their point differential and all the regular season stats are so good with them. But when it comes to the playoffs, maybe it was just the Knicks part of it. But I know I kept thinking about that pairing going, this might be the problem, that you have 2 guys that don't have to be defended.
So he's got 2 years left, then player option. But his number is really low right now. It's 32.6, 34.8 next year. And it's going to be one of those things where he's going to sign an extension. It's going to be for a massive number because he has the All-NBA stuff. And if that's not in motion in any way, then we're going to be on the clock with this. So who knows how it's going to go. But that's the one thing that worries me. I'm going to go over because of the conference.
I'm an over as well.
Okay. I just think there's going to be one dopey over team. And I actually have a second one too that we'll get to in part 3 of the pod. Chicago Bulls, 37.5. No Lonzo this year. They are plus 172 to make the playoffs. I think you can make a case they have the worst point guards in the league. Zach LaVine seemed like he was pretty available for most of the summer, but then he wasn't because the Bulls, there was no way they were trading him because they wanted a ton for him, but yet he was in a million stories. DeRozan's got an extension coming up. They took care of Vooch. House, Since 2016, 42 wins, 41, 27, 22, 22, 31, 46, 41. Not where you want to be in the middle. You root for a team that's been in the middle for 2/3 of your life.
Yeah, with a worse record year over year than that run. But they're in no man's land. They have a whole bunch of great trade assets. They didn't do it last year. Will this be the year?
40 and 42 last year. Yeah, they held the fort for reasons that remain unclear. They're a little bit over the luxury tax right now, which is always a red flag for them because they've never paid it. And DeRozan is a stealth, sneaky trade candidate this year. Expiring contract. I think he's somebody that could fit in with a lot of different teams. And this is an under to me. I just don't think there's just a couple other teams I like more in the East. So I'm going to under 37.5. House, you're under?
I'm under.
What do you, Russillo?
Definitely under.
Okay.
40, what do we got here? 40 and 46. And remember, 2 years ago was that weird, hot start.
Yeah.
And then you were like...
And 500 for like the last 3 months.
The rest of the way.
Yeah.
And then there was more of a carryover. I just think they have a lot of pieces here that could be trade targets. So I would go under.
Sometimes this happens with the NBA draft where they had prime spots in the draft, the Kobe White draft, and then the Patrick Williams draft. And they probably took the right players, but it was just kind of the wrong spots of the draft. They're like one late here and two late on. They just never hit that next piece. So Levine will be an interesting one to see if
right. And Orlando had two of their picks too. So
and that's the other thing. They do the Vooch trade, and one of them was the Franz Wagner pick, and the other one was the Anthony Black pick.
Yeah.
Rough trade. All right. Not a lot to say about the Bulls. Sorry, guys. That didn't bring a lot of Bulls takes. Not a team I plan on watching a ton of on League Pass. Russillo and I always talk about League Pass conservation. You're trying to, first 2 months especially, you're trying to learn as much as you can. I'm not going to learn anything from the Bulls. I know what they do. It's like Levine, DeRozan, Vooch. I get it.
Yeah, it was a fun first half of the season 2 years ago, man.
Yeah,
that was fun. Like the place was rocking. Saturday night game in Chicago, and then it was like, are they really this good? It was like, no, they're not.
They're definitely going to beat Boston the first time they play Boston because it's just a team of guys who kill Boston. Vooch kills Porzingis. There's I'm just promising you Chicago wins that first game. Pacers, 38.5. Had an iPad accident, so I had to go backwards. Last year, 35 and 47. Playoffs, plus 126. Is this the kind of frisky 42 and 40 Eastern Conference team that we grew up with as kids?
You're goddamn right it is. That is exactly who this team is.
You've personally rooted for 7 teams like this.
I rooted for this team last year. Fitting this kind of description.
Halliburton played 56 games. So you're telling me I need 4 more wins with a full season of Halliburton? It's an over.
They were 28 and 28 with him. They were 22 and 18 to start the season.
Yeah, they were a frisky, weird team.
Frisky.
Remember, they had like a 5 seed next to them, and guys were like, man.
And just when I was like, I like this team anyway. I'm excited to see what Nembhard does and all this stuff. They go and they get Bruce Brown, who I've loved forever, who they overpaid him, but it's fine. It was a short deal. And then Toppin, who it's just by rule has to haunt the Knicks fans at least 5 times next year. But this is a weird roster. We like Mathurin. He gets to the line. What did he have, like 6 free throws a game last year or something like that? He's like this.
He just gets
hybrid
to the hoop
offensive
all the time.
player, just gets to the rim.
Now, I would say it's a little alarming that ESPN's depth chart only has 4 starters, so I don't know if there's a rule change. Get IT on that.
And you like Walker more than I do. I guess we'll see with Walker. I thought they took him a little high, but for what they needed like, a banger stretch 4. Basically.
I get how it could work because he's a big guy that can initiate a little bit more offense. I don't know how much they're ever going to let him put it on the floor and create on his own. But Mathurin is a real matchup problem for him. So I just look at the Halliburton numbers and go, odds are at his age, he's playing more than 56 games, get me to 70 games.
He's an All-NBA possibility guy.
That's going to be 4 more wins.
He's a top 25 guy in the league.
He's a world stage guy. We just went through this with Anthony Edwards. The other guy that impressed the shit out of everybody was Halliburton.
Yeah.
With good reason.
This is a pretty easy over for me. There's something weird with their draft too. Oh no, they own all their picks. Okay. Yeah, easy over. And I think there's always one team when the conference is a little goofy like this. There's always one team that kind of jumps in and gets it. And this will be an interesting moment for Halliburton because I think he was somebody that Team USA experience, I think, won over a lot of people too. And I thought was one of the best guys they had. I thought him and Reeves, like those guys jumped off the TV in those games. What's the best Buddy Hield trade for you, Russillo?
LeBron.
Cerruti wants him in Orlando.
For who? Suggs?
I don't know. Cerruti's like...
He said yes to Suggs?
Cerruti said, if we get a shooter, look out. His exact words coming out of the elevator. He's coming in hot for the pod today. But it does seem like the Buddy Hield situation's weird, but I think they just want to play Mathurin and want to see what they have with him and Halliburton together. But, you know, they'll get one extra piece for him. And McConnell, the Suns were going after him basically all summer, but I think if they want to roll the dice with Nembhard and try to trade McConnell, I think they would get something from McConnell.
I would love McConnell as a backup on my team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want him to be
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah. He and Tyus Jones, love those guys.
All right, so we're all in on Indiana over. Detroit, over under. This is our last team in the division. Their over under is 27.5. This is just a weird team. This is a top 3 weird, holy mackerel. What's going on here with the Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey combo? They have 4 centers, Isaiah Stewart, Bagley, Jalen Duren, and Wiseman. They have the other Thompson twin. They have Monty Morris, who all of us really like. They have the artist formerly known as Joe Harris. They have Killian Hayes. They re-signed Alec Burks. And Kevin, they have Bogdanovich.
He actually had like a big Killian Hayes. Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Look at this. Like, one last push.
Right.
One final push. Like, no, we had 7 guys behind that river, and they're coming for you.
Yeah.
And I was proud of Kevin for that one because I was like, shit, he's still trying.
Well, I think Hayes is like, isn't he still only like 22?
I don't care. Yeah.
Okay. You don't care. Well, they paid a ton for Monty Williams, who coached the Suns team that the last 2 years like rolled over in the biggest possible spots. I just didn't understand that at all. I guess the question for me is...
No, it's just simple. Like, if you're sitting and you're an owner and you're like, hey, do we want to make Monty Williams the highest paid guy to ever do it?
You'd probably be like
I
have
think
a counter.
I think that's a no.
Yeah.
Good for him. Great guy. Everybody likes him.
This comes down to Cade. Is Cade a franchise player?
I believe he will be. And I'm going over.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know why. I needed one of these teams down there in the 20s. I needed to go over.
Okay.
So yeah, I have other teams in that territory going over. So I think 27 wins, which is a 10-win improvement, is fine, and I'm fine with the under.
This team was 17-65 last year. So this over would be 10 wins higher. Now, Cade didn't play most of last year, and they also were totally happy to tank. They got killed by the lottery.
Killed because they had 17 wins.
Oof.
Yeah.
They go in thinking Wemby. I think they left with the 5th pick.
Do they need Wemby, though, with all their centers?
I have a Thompson question for you.
Sure.
Is it possible they're just going to be fucking like awesome? Like, what are if you had to like rank the odds, like awesome, really good, better than you think, or oh no, which one would you go with?
Man, they're so gifted physically and they're huge.
There's been a lot of buzz about them, House.
Right.
Both of them.
And both of them are pretty good passers. And Amen's shot may be broken. So that's the thing I think that holds it back. I'd say better than you thought's the best one there. But like the way they get talked about, like there's a lot of smart guys that seem to go, hey, dude, they're going to be ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, because it was hard for me to come to that conclusion with the stuff that I watched them playing last year.
I'm going to change my pick. I want over for Detroit.
All in.
Yeah, I'm over on Detroit.
Oh, my God. See, this is why I win every year, because you guys get seduced by a team with 4 centers.
Well, they were motivated. They really did try. They tried to get into the Wemby stakes. And they have too many players on their team.
There's one player all of us hold out hope for, and it's a different player. It's Marvin Bagley III for Bill. It's Wiseman for me.
I think I gave up for Marvin.
And it's Jonte Porter for Alex.
No, I like beef stew. Give me beef stew.
I love Isaiah Stewart. I was hoping the Celtics would get him.
Like I'm looking at this roster. It's not, if Cade is anything.
The only reason I remember the beef stew thing, it was one of those many days where I was frustrated with Hoops Hype, where I was on the 7th link to a big stew food drive that he was having. And I was like, can we get to a fucking rumor here? It was like the 6th link in a row that he was coming out with some canned stew.
Russillo, it's just, you just need to buy Hoops Hype. Just take it over. Be like, wait, there's a new sheriff in town. We're back to rumors.
I don't care that Oscar Krilenshkovitz has been waived in Istanbul.
The Celtics have high hopes for Wenyen Gabriel. That should not be the top story in Hoops Hype. I'm going under, and I think you guys missed a crucial point with the Pistons. There's not a lot of bad teams. And at some point, we get to, there's like 4 teams who just look at each other and go, oh, wow, we could get the first pick in the draft. Let's just start fucking with this team and shutting some guys down. I also think Bogdanovich is a legitimate trade candidate.
For sure.
Especially if Thompson turns into anything initially. So I'm going under. All right, here's what we had for the Pacific. Suns 52.5. We all went under. Lakers 46.5. We all went over. Golden State 47.5. I went over. You guys went under. We were zagging against each other a lot in this one. Sacramento 44.5. All over. I was surprised by that. 45.5 for the Clippers. All under. Milwaukee 53.5. House and I went under. Russillo went over. Cavs 50.5. Russillo under. House and I over. Bulls 37.5. Under. Pacers 38.5. Over. And then the Pistons 27.5. I went under. You guys went over. And that is part 2 of the pod. Part 3 will be the most fun one because all of our teams are involved, including House's Wizards. House texted me that he couldn't believe the over-under was only 23.5, and he already bet the over, and I can't wait to talk about it. Part 3, produced by Steve Cerruti and Kyle Creighton, and we'll see you for part 3.